So guys and female guys, today I have something very special for you. So recently Coffeezilla posted a video about how a bank scammed people for over $100 million. And since he's talking about scammers, I really thought that people would really appreciate an expert's perspective on this. I can make these jokes, alright? I have a free pass on these things. Like the black people have the N-word pass. I don't wanna hear no crying on this. So now you might be thinking, what is this scam and how does it work? Well, I will let Coffee explain first before giving my expert opinion on it.
All of the people you've been hearing from save their money in fintech companies like Yada, Juno, and others. Slick financial apps that are not banks, but took deposits while advertising FDIC insurance. They did this using a middleman called Synapse to connect them with a real bank called Evolve Bank and Trust, who was FDIC insured in the event of a bank failure. So FDIC insurance, which is an American program where banks are insured with up to $250,000 against bankruptcy failure, it doesn't apply here because a bank didn't fail. A middleman did. Theoretically, everyone's money should still be safely held at Evolve. But this is where our mystery begins because as the bankruptcy carried on, Evolve said they didn't have all the customers' money. There was a giant gap between what Synapse said they had versus what Evolve did. According to the Wall Street Journal, up to $96 million might be missing. Evolve Bank claims they're not the problem. They literally don't have customers' money because they were told to send it to other banks like AMG and Lineage.
Now, putting all your money into an app instead of a bank is a bad idea to begin with. Apps should be used as a mediums for payment, not as a main saving holder. Now, many of you might be saying, but even bank can go bankrupt or fraud may happen. But if it's a legal bank and you did your research beforehand, your money would be secured through an insurance, as Coffee explained. Then Coffee just explained the situation further and it's truly fucked up.
The story goes that in late 2023, Synapse wanted to diversify banks instead of relying on just one. So they set up relationships with other banks like AMG and Lineage to hold customers' money and diversify. Makes sense. Now, most customers weren't aware of this change because it was only noted in an opt-out email basis sent to customers, meaning if you didn't see it when it came through, your money may have been moved without you ever knowing or approving it. Normally, this wouldn't matter. And some fintechs like Yada even pitched it as a way to get increased FDIC insurance coverage, which in hindsight is ironic. But the effect is that everyone's money was shuffled around like a game of three-card Monte. Of course, Synapse in theory should have records of where all that money went, but Synapse is now in bankruptcy. And not everyone agrees with their numbers, specifically Evolve Bank and Trust, who says they don't have as much of the customer funds as Synapse says they do. To prove it, Evolve hired Encura Consulting to do their own reconciliation of the bank's balance sheet, and their numbers versus Synapse's numbers is what has created the gap. These results were given to customers on November 4th, the day before the presidential election. Always a pretty good day to hide bad news. That is, you don't have as much savings as you thought you had. Customers are understandably confused and angry. Whoever's fault this is, it's not theirs.
Always a good idea to shuffle the money in big amounts like that. Now, I must say there is definitely something shady going on behind this. 100 million is the amount that most of us won't even see in our lives. And there are people out there who is pulling heists like that. Like you all really thought that an Indian scammer crying, "Do not redeem the $500 Google Pay card, sir," was pinnacle of scamming? Well, behold, because this is way worse and on a much larger scale.
Where is this nearly $100 million of missing funds? Somebody has it, but everyone's saying it's not them. The other banks, AMG and Lineage, by the way, do not deny they had some of the money from Evolve, but they tend to agree with Synapse's version of the ledger and have already paid out based on that. Meanwhile, Evolve is also saying they've paid out their fair share. So we're stuck in this horrible situation where people are using different ledgers to say, oh, we fully paid out everyone. And some people are getting pennies on the dollar, seemingly at random.
Yeah, everyone is pointing fingers at each other with different ledgers and it's really insane. The missing money was someone's hard-earned money, probably their life saving. Now, Coffee took interviews of people who are actually trapped in this mess. Like one of the guys who had invested like $21,000 in savings. He is only getting just $17 back. Not $17,000, but just $17.
Now, with so much on the line, all of these banks have been desperately trying to put out their side of the story. with specifically Evolve's being the most different. And they've been sharing screenshots of hundreds of millions of dollars moving from their bank to these other banks, saying that they just don't have the money. Whereas Synapse's CEO, on the other hand, has been very vocal as well. Even one of the fintechs, Yada, has sued Evolve. But at the end of the day, it's become a bit of a he said, she said, where everyone has their own numbers that they're using to say we're right, but it's hard to rely on anyone's word. So I wondered if we could trace the problem ourselves a little differently, not relying on any one source, but instead going to everyone, just asking questions, and maybe finding some different threads to pull on that gives us insights. And this is where things got interesting. Little by little, I was able to get a bunch of internal emails and documents between these companies, even get detailed banking records. All of this showed big problems, but they had been brewing for much longer than I thought. Way before everything blew up in May of 2024, rewind the clocks back to when everyone's money was in one place at Evolve.
Now, as I said, everyone is pointing at each other, which is never a good sign because it's basically a debate of nothing and nobody is proving anything. That the evidence is just all over the place. So Coffee then digs up a hell lot of information behind the scenes to track the problem these firms were having with each other. And it's actually crazy, like the amount of research and effort which was put into this single video just blew my mind. But yeah, I feel like in this era, it's quite easy to get scammed. Like you never know what is happening behind the scenes. And it's not really a small amount we're dealing with. It's usually in millions. And when that happens, the people who owns that amount of money become untouchable. But I found something which we should definitely look into. 100 million missing, and Coffeezilla just seems to have 100 million studio. Bro is playing chess while all of us are playing checkers. Anyways, here is my fan art for Coffee. Go watch his video for the full context. I highly recommend it. I did not react it to the whole video so that you guys actually go and watch it fully. I just kept the explanation of the scam in this video. So at least you guys get a vague idea of what is actually happening. Like and subscribe.